Alright, so an endgame combat tier list for Tides of Terraria. So the difference between this tier list and my old tier lists is that in the old one I was sort of including everything into one big tier list, but now we have 226 pals, so it's a little bit too much to rank them all at the same time by everything from mounts and how early they are available to endgame combat to base working and everything. So I've just divided the tier list up into several categories now. So we're going to start in this video with just endgame combat tier list. So this just assumes you are maxing pals with 4 stars, maxing souls, everything like that. So this is purely just a maxed endgame build, not taking into account how easy it is to acquire pals and stuff like that. So we're going to be starting with D tier and then moving our way all the way up to S tier. And not every pal will be included here. Like D tier will be probably the lowest pals that are still good to consider as maxed party pals or raid pals or something you would bring to the oil rig. So they're still good. Some pals just won't be brought up at all. Some of them might be something I've had like forgotten to add, so you can add some comments if you feel that a pal is missing, or they're just not strong enough to be regarded as these best end game pals. So we're going to start with D tier. So these pals are still extremely strong end game pals. They just lack this sort of special exclusive skill or extremely high stat pool or something else that just really makes them stand out among combat pals. So we're going to start with Herbil as probably the lowest ranked one. It's definitely only here for that partner skill, so you don't have to max it. It's just helpful to max, and it really depends on what type of player you are. Like, it's not going to help you to kill stuff faster, but it will help you a lot if you're dying against like hard mode tower bosses, oil rigs, and raids. Even if there's no real penalty for dying against a raid, it's just overall helpful. So that's probably the only real utility pal that we're going to keep in this tier, just because it does nothing to actually help you be better. It just helps you if you're dying pretty much. Then we have Finsider. So I probably lied a little bit with the whole like how accessible pals are and stuff. Like Finsider is still a good pal, but it's ranked a bit lower just because why not use Finsider Ignis, which has this partner skill that boosts itself, has a little bit higher stat pool and gains one more element. I guess it's mainly like you might not want the resistance stuff, but I don't feel like adding fire element to a Finsider gives any specific weakness currently. So Finsider, great pal, just completely outshone by the Finsider Ignis. Sibelyx, a bit of a surprise to see it here in D tier for a lot of people probably, and that is mainly because of this. Let's add my mouse here actually. So Sibelyx, mainly because of the partner skill. You can max the partner skill, do 2.5 times more damage with the Blizzard Spike, and then when the pal uses the skill itself, it keeps that 2.5 damage. So it's just a great pal for a lot of the dragon fights if you want to max a party pal that shines a little bit better. So the stats are pretty bad, but if you do bring like a maxed Sibelyx against a couple of those dragon pals in the endgame, it will do a huge amount of damage. Braloha, so Braloha also makes a surprise appearance here. It does have an extremely powerful grass attack, but it also lacks a little bit of stats and has a huge hitbox. But why it's rated D tier is because it's one of those pals that, again, I lied a little bit with accessibility. You probably want to breed Bralohas just to keep in the base, and while you're breeding Bralohas just to speed up the egg farming, you might as well end up breeding a couple of combat ones, a couple of base workers, just stuff like that. So it's not super strong, but the grass skill is very strong. It's just that we don't really fight anything with grass right now. Menasting, just a very standard combat pal. The defense boost is nice. Could have been Menasting Terra as well. It really just depends on what element you prefer. Dark Wisp as a skill fruit means that Menasting deals quite a lot of damage with that. Then you also have like the Rock Burst combo with jumping in close. So it's just an overall neat pal to use. And then Terra versus non-Terra just depends a little bit on what you're fighting. Like adding a weakness to Beam Slicer and Meteor Rain and stuff like that isn't very nice. But you can use Menasting Terra as well. They're pretty much equal. Just depends if you want the Dark Wisp bonus or not. Robinquill and Robinquill Terra, we can cover these together. They're sort of one pal fits all when you're doing the Gobfin build. So instead of having like one Anubis for ground, one Frostallion for ice, and one Vixen for fire, you just have one pal. It's kind of like Felbat, but it deals damage instead of healing. So Robinquill, bonus damage to headshots, Doesn't scale super well with the Terra Prisma we have now, but if you're good at doing headshots and only want to make like one party pal, Robinquill Terra is a decent option. It also has decent attack stat. So let's just show that real quick. Each one of these pals, you click on them, you get these sort of pal pages for each one, which shows the stats. Robinquill, very high attack stat for one of these like mid-tier pals with a decent partner skill, but slightly lacking in the other stats. So let's just go back here. Suzaku Aqua, so also a bit of a surprise for people that I rated this high. Mainly it's because of the new skill fruits Wall Splash and Hydro Slicer. So Suzaku Aqua, you kind of like get this bonus damage like Lyleen and Shadowbeak when you mount up. So mounting up on a Suzaku Aqua just lets you use this Wall Splash Hydro Slicer combo for a huge amount of damage against fire bosses. Something like Phalaris, but it's also very weak to Holy Burst, so it just kind of falls off compared to using something like Lyleen instead. Warsect Terra, just an overall good pal, again similar to Menasting. You can use the basic version if you do want that grass element. You can use the ground version, just like if you don't want the weakness to fire and stuff. So it's kind of the same thing there. Works well with the rock burst build. It's a decent tanky pal to just have in your party. So most of the pals in this D tier, you could just like pick 5 of these random pals and have them in your party for a decent team. Phalaris should probably have like Phalaris Aqua as a combat pal here next to it. Or it might be higher up in the tiers actually. But Phalaris, just an overall very high fire damage output with like giving it Eternal Flame can be worth it, and it has those 2 exclusive skills and then Flame Funnel. The reason is it's in D tier. It has pretty low stats for how like cool and late game it is. Just those 2 great attacks and then a huge hitbox, so it will die and get stuck and stuff like that. Lyleen, just a strong grass pal, and it has this unique healing skill. So if you can make that work, or if you do need the extra heal, like it's just a decent pal to have here in D tier. But as mentioned, the grass isn't very useful. Same thing for Palumba, quite a high attack stat grass pal that you can use like for mounted rock bursts and stuff, but also does suffer a bit from just being grass. Whalaska and Whalaska Ignis, pretty similar pals, just maybe Whalaska being a little bit better for like the lunker build, I would say. But again, just a huge hitbox bringing it down against most content. But the stat pool and elements on them are very nice. Jormuntide, very much like outshined by Jormuntide Ignis. Also a huge hitbox and has been replaced a little bit by Ghangler now. So the exclusive skill for Jormuntide and Ghangler were pretty weak. It's mainly about hitbox and then resisting dragon or not, or being weak to dragon. Otherwise they're just a dragon pal here and dark pal here. So they're comparable if you want a like water pal, but there's a lot of good water options that we're gonna get to as well. Xenogard just learns great attacks, but that's not relevant for endgame combat really. It's just a strong stat pool dragon. And I didn't want to like remove pals just because there are better dragons. Like Jet Dragon is just better. Xenogard is alright. It's a good pal. Sootseer actually has very good stats. It's a little bit down in D tier. Like you'll find a lot of the dark pals in D tier, I feel, just because of how common Beam Slicer, Blast Cannon and Meteor Rain are in the endgame. So there's a little bit of meta here as well. Pals that are good against the current bosses will get rated higher. And pals that are not so good against current bosses will get rated a bit lower. So something like Sootseer would be great against Bellanor Libro, but just doesn't shine against the more difficult content, really. Then Helzephyr Lux, let's just bring that one up as well. Just a high attack stat electric pal, slash dark. So if you do want an alternative to Orzhok that would use like Dark Wisp instead, Helzephyr Lux is just a very high attack stat pal. But no like really cool exclusive skill, and the partner skill is the same as Beacon, just swapping to electricity. And electricity doesn't really have anything we're fighting right now. Let's see if we can scroll this correctly. C tier. So in C tier we have Chillet to start. It's very good against Victor. It's very good against phase 1 Libro, the entirety of Bellanor. and against Saya and Selene. But unfortunately, there are other pals that just perform better in all these fights. So Chillet, while being good against Victor, you got pals that abuse Holy Burst doing better. Against Saya, I mean, it works. But Chillet being a little bit low, a little bit squishy, it tends to get clipped by like the Moonlight Beam and stuff like that, and just sort of get stunned and get staggered and start burning. It's a little bit squishy. It works, but it's not as good as other pals in the fights where it is the best one. But it's still a very good pal for the Gobfin build. Same thing with Azurobe, really. Azurobe, really good against Marcus and Phalaris, really good against Phase 1 Rio. But now with just the Holy Burst spam, there are better options in these fights where these pals shine. And same thing with Ragnahawk, let's include that one. And Gildane, let's see, is there anyone else here? No, so it's these 4 element swap pals here. Gildane, Ragnahawk, they've all sort of been outscaled by, like Gildane, Anubis just works better, Ragnahawk, Vixen just works better. Just being able to dodge and the pal attacking on its own just feels a little bit better than the 10% bonus player attack you gain. Because you just have to sort of be dodging manually, you can't be shooting when the boss is attacking the same way, so overall it just slows down the kill. Demon Eye, so something of a bit of a surprise for people here, it is a dark booster, so you can just stack 4 or 5 of them on top of each other. Boosters have a pretty random rating by me in this tier list, I feel, but it's probably like one of the weaker boosters that are still strong enough to just use 5 of them on their own. So with these boosters, you can take 5 of them in a party, they all give each other 20% attack for a 100% attack, and then you can either just fight with them until they die, you can swap when they start getting low, you can just hot swap between Holy Bursts, so just 5 Holy Burst, boom, boom, boom. Just stuff like that works with these swapping pals, but some of them are better than others. Like, you probably wouldn't do it with 5, like Hukrates or something like that. They're just too weak in stats, but Demon Eye does have decent stats. Gildane, one thing you can do with Gildane that you can't do with Anubis is mount up, run into melee range, and pop a Rock Burst. But it's not like super, it's fun against like So, but she's pretty weak. Not much else really difficult to fight. Like, it's Phase 2 Rio, but generally that also works with just the Anubis and staying far away. Silvegis, just a great C tier pal, so it goes a little bit above D tier just because the shield can be very useful to completely negate damage, and it depends a lot on the fight. Like, you can completely negate Divine Disaster 1 and 2, you can completely negate some other attacks, but stuff like Pal Blast tends to go through. But at the same time, like, just completely removing the damage from some skills is a lot of survivability. Then it's also Dragon, so it resists the Beam Slicers, the Meteor Rains from other pals. It does burn, which brings it down a step. And it also doesn't have a booster pal, just being pure Dragon is a bit of a downside for party pals. And as a raid pal it is pretty big, but what puts it apart from these other pals down here is just that exclusive skill, making it very good, also very good pal in the arena with that exclusive skill. Verdash suffers from a same thing that other grass pals do. It's a great party pal. It's kind of like the Robinquill where it's good against everything, but also it turns your damage to grass. There aren't a lot of ground bosses. I think there's like Nocklem. That might be it. Maybe a couple of arena pals or something, but yeah, grass just isn't great, but the partner skill is really good on it. Maybe it should even be one step higher, but at the same time you kind of use a glider instead, like Galeclaw. Paladius, just a great stat pool, but you can't breed attacks onto it, so it loses out a little bit. Also slightly lower attack stat hurts it a lot. Like, for me, the priority for almost all the pals is just pure attack stat. Then we're checked like the exclusive skills, and the bulk comes very late in how I rate pals. But it does have a lot of bulk and a good hitbox if you just want a wall, like to make an army of pals that just survive for a long time. Then we have Blazamut. You can do some fun fire builds on it where you mount up and do 100, sort of like Suzaku Aqua. Fire is just a great element, so it's just slightly better than these pals because of the saddle effect and just being fire. Also decent bulk. You can do some Eternal Flame builds, but they're not really optimal. But Blazamut just stands out among these pals, just with the saddle and and being able to do that huge amount of fire damage. And just like it's good against Bjorn and stuff like that, but it does get killed by Wall Splash. So fire pals in general struggle a bit against Bjorn, but they are very strong. Astegon, just a great exclusive skill, can make use of Invader. It does struggle against like these Holy Burst type of attacks, but it's a great pal to bring anyway against like Victor, Saya. It works as a raid army. Sometimes they fly away a little bit, but it's just overall a surprisingly good fighting pal, especially if you do give it Invader and make use of like the 3 dragon skills that you can do. Maybe even like some Dark Wisp stuff as well. But just good stats. The partner skill is completely negated now by ore mining sites though. So you could make a case for bringing Astegon down to D tier, but just I feel C tier with the dragon skill. There aren't a lot of good dragon exclusive skills. So it's just a good pal against like Sai and Victor and stuff like that. Bushi Knock, just a huge attack stat. Does learn Iaigiri. Part fire, bringing it up quite a bit. It is going to struggle against some dragon attacks, but it will also resist a lot of dark attacks. So it's give and take with all the dark pals. Like dark is so common and it's such a common attack that resisting it is nice, but being weak to dragon, like you could probably change these two around a little bit. Bushi Knock just has a little bit higher attack, does make good use of the Dark Wisp skill fruit as well. So yeah, you could probably switch these. It will depend a bit on what you're fighting, really, if you want the dark or if you want pure fire. Then we go up to B tier. So B tier from C tier, usually just a lot stronger stats as a baseline, or have like something, a good exclusive skill or a good partner skill. So starting with Xenolord, pretty low rated I feel. I feel like I rated Xenolord pretty low compared to like what he is. He has 5 exclusive skills, it's a raid boss. But there are a couple of things that bring it down in my opinion. The first thing, even if I said accessibility wasn't going to be factored in, I have to include it a little bit with the raid pals, because there's no Yakumo, there's no fishing for passives. So that's a downside, like breeding them is a lot of work. Then you also have the exclusive skills. It has 5 exclusive skills and they're all like pretty bad. It depends. Like Omega Laser feels bugged. It misses a lot, like in the arena and in tower bosses. And then against raids, it does get this part dark, so it doesn't resist dragon. So they all just tend to die against like themselves. Like Xenolord Ultra kills Xenolord with 1 Meteor Rain. And then it also doesn't get legend, since it is a raid pal, no access to Meteor Rain. So just a couple of losses for Xenolord. I feel like, and the attack stat, if I didn't mention that, is surprisingly low. I feel like if Omega Laser just worked, it would be better. And I'm not sure about the dark element. Again, resisting dark is nice, but being weak or not resisting dragon and like burning in pal pots that are on fire, I don't know. There's a couple of factors that bring it down. Turtacle Terra. So this one is in this booster thing that I was talking about, having 5 Demonize. It's the same thing. Or do you have like 2 Noclems and 3 Turtacle Terras. So Turtacle Terra is this booster pal as well. Having 5 of them, spamming Rock Burst is quite nice, but there are other boosters that sort of work better because they have a higher attack stat. But it's still a good booster for having this like Rock Burst, Hydro Slicer combo thing. Just becomes very strong when you stack a bunch of them up. Sweepa and Elizabee, let's cover them together. They do this thing where you stack 5 Swee, or 4 Swee and 4 B-Guards, and they get a huge amount of stats. I think I put that on their card here, on their page. Did I put that here? With 4 maxed B-Guard, Elizabee gets plus 128% attack and 96% defense. So I guess it's kind of like they become a budget Noclem, but you can withdraw dodge as much as you like, so they're just incredibly strong with that defense and attack bonus together. Like Sweepa, I think it's one of the better options if you just want to bring something to just one shot, like Jet Dragon. They work well against tower bosses, they don't really require you to be saddled up. You can saddle up on Sweepa to do melee Rock Burst if you want, I guess. But overall, they just become incredibly strong with these 4 pals. But the reason I rated them maybe a little bit lower despite these huge stat pools, is that it does eat up your entire party. Like, you won't be having a Jetragon and a Gale Claw and whatever, like, utility pals. You're kind of locked to them. So if you do want to fight Jetragon, it's a long walk on a Sweepa. Then we have Omaskull. So probably surprisingly highly rated here. It's just great with the partner skill, or I mean the exclusive skill, once you do get it pretty maxed. Like, if it's a weak Omaskull, it kind of just dies, but a strong Omaskull with the partner's exclusive skill just life-stealing away becomes almost unkillable. So as long as it's dealing a decent chunk of damage, it just heals incredibly fast. So it's just a nice pal to have, like one of these or 5 of these, and then some boosters. Just becomes this very strong carry pal that never dies. Kind of like Felbat, but you do need to run this dark exclusive skill, so it might not shine against some dark pals or dragon pals, but otherwise it's a surprisingly strong pick. Like, it's not going to win any DPS races, but it will win a couple of survivability competitions. Prickster, huge attack stat, gets close melee range for a rock burst. Not much else to say about really. It just utilizes the rock burst build incredibly well. So if we did bring up the swapping pals thing, there is also a rock burst thing, which is pals that can pull off the rock burst build are rated extremely high because it's a super powerful build where they use an exclusive skill or something like that, like Prickster's jumping skill, Splatterina's teleporting skill. They get in real nice and close, and then rock burst and airblade deal huge amounts of damage. So it's mainly centered around those builds. Ashramane, just a strong electric attacking pal if you want a strong electric attacker. Slightly weaker than Orsurk probably, but you can mount up and do some attacks with that and dodge as well. So it's rated quite high just because of that mobility. You can do a lot of mounted combat with it, just fun as well. So a bit of a skill ceiling pal. You can attack twice. It depends a bit on how much weapons you're using. Like with 0 weapons, Ashramane is very good. If you're adding like a complete player weapon setup, then Orsurk becomes a little better. But Ashramane is still a great pal, especially for that saddle dodging around mounted combat thing. Splatterina is very similar to Prickster, just getting close. And that's what Omaskull can actually do as well. They teleport in close and they do damage. So Splatterina, very high attack stat as well. And the exclusive skill just works very well for the Rock Burst combo. So Ghangler Ignis, being part fire is very nice. It also has the choice of running this wall splash Hydro Slicer thing, which is also very strong. Makes great use of Flame Funnel, which is very strong. These elements are also great for raids because pal pods that are on fire work way better with water or fire pals. And it just has an incredibly high attack stat. So you're kind of comparing probably Ghangler Ignis and Jormuntide Ignis a bit, just in terms of fire. So Jormuntide Ignis, you get that like beam slicer, added damage as well. Added damage to Meteor Rain if you want that. But it also dies to 1 Holy Burst. Ghangler Ignis, slightly lower total stats, but at the same time a smaller hitbox. So that's the main comparison. And then as well, water versus dragon. Jormuntide Ignis has fallen from grace a little bit. It's back and forth a little bit. When Palpods were removed, it was terrible. Now Palpods are back. It is again a great raid pal, but it does have a very big hitbox against like Wall Splash on Björn, Holy Burst on Saya, Holy Burst on Xenolord Ultra, and then the Giant Beam on Moonlord. So with the Palpods it still works, but you can get overwhelmed with like all Jormuntide Ignis getting one shot or your party pal being one shot if you don't withdraw dodge against Holy Burst. So just this huge hitbox drags it down a little bit. It still has like the perfect elements, very high stats. So it does still work, it's just fallen a little bit. Frostallion Noct, so highest base stats in the game. We can see that real quick as well, just to show here. So the highest total stats in the game, very respectable in each individual stat. But if you look at like how it does, this is when the current meta becomes very relevant. I think there's only Paladius that you want to fight with a Frostallion Noct. Even if you can't, it's like the only pal that can get double Blizzard Spike and Meteor Rain. And you can give it Siren of the Void, Lunker, Invader, like anything, since you can breed for it. And it has these stats. It's just bad because of this huge hitbox, and just being part dark. So it will die to Meteor Rain and stuff like that anyway. Dark just being very weak in the current state of the game. And yeah, just like swapping your attack to Dark isn't great. It makes it weak against most current bosses. So despite the stats, like, I still have a great pal. Mix in some skill fruits and stuff like that, but it doesn't really shine the way that they do in A tier. So let's do A tier. Not so many pals, we're being more selective now. A tier pals. So Bellanor, Libro, Bellanor, and Rio could probably all have been S tier pals. It's just this being locked out of stuff like Legend and Meteor Rain. Bellanor and Bellanor Libro, they're pretty much the same pal. Just Siren of the Void, but you can breed that down. And then Flame Waltz, I believe. A little bit stronger exclusive attack, but then this one, the beam doesn't really fan out, so it can hit a couple of times more on some targets, becoming better. It really depends. Like, Bellanor might even be better against Moonlord with those moving eyes and stuff like that. But they are down one step from S tier, just lacking Legend and lacking breeding chains. And then being dark for Libro, not very good in the current state of the game. Rio does have excellent elements, but like it's also a bit of a mix with, like, you get this Eternal Flame passive for electric and fire damage, and then the saddle is dragon damage, and you have the fire and dragon skills. And the skills just aren't great. Like, Libro's skill is very good. But yeah, just losing access to Legend and like Meteor Rain really does bring it down a little bit. Isolin, excellent pal. Very high attack stat, does this thing that Anubis and Vixen and stuff does, but it just lacks fights. Like, in the current state of the game, it's Axel and Orsurk. You don't want to be fighting Xenolord on foot. So Isolin, like, it's a great pal on paper, and it does work in a lot of other fights. You don't have to bring it to super effective fights. That's why it's in A tier, just being one of these neat element swapping pals with a high attack stat. But just lacks a little bit of fights to shine in, really. Kurajiro Noct, probably the best booster for doing this boosting swapping thing for any element. Like, you can give it Holy Burst and swap between 5 Holy Burst, swap between 5 Rock Bursts. You can do like swapping between all 5 after 3 skills. So when fighting something like Victor, you might want it to do Holy Burst, Beam Slicer, Blast Cannon, and then you swap. But it's the same thing there, just getting 100% attack bonus from 5 Kurajiro Nocts on top of an already high attack stat just becomes very strong. And just the fact that you don't have to run 5 Kurajiro Nocts. You can have like 4 Kurajiro Nocts and then Shadowbeak, for example, to just boost the Shadowbeak. And then just have a viable pal to switch in if you do need to withdraw dodge and let Shadowbeak heal up with a potion or something. Or if you just like breed some cool attacks to them. Like, you can have one with Wind Edge, one with Meteor Rain, just to have some viability. And then you'd bring out your Invader, Siren of the Void, Shadowbeak with like Divine Disaster 1 and 2 and Dark Wisp. Just some stuff you can do, but let's talk about Shadowbeak. So Shadowbeak is an amazing pal. A little bit of a big hitbox, bring it down, and also this Dark not being super cool right now. Dying to Meteor Rain, Blast Cannon, and Beam Slicer. So Dragon right now does have these like super strong attacks that most bosses do use. So Shadowbeak just drops down a little bit. Like, if we ever get a raid boss that doesn't resist Shadowbeak, it will really shine. Like, it was good against Moonlord, just slightly big on the wings. So it might be that if, like, let's say Libro was any other element than Dark or Dragon, I guess, Shadowbeak would just be a top tier pal for that raid. So that's excellent stats, 2 super strong exclusive skills, a great saddle effect, but just being Dark brings it down from S tier. So let's go up to S tier. So these are the top rated pals in the current state of the game. Just with, like, the key factors here are really burning pal pods, so water and fire are rated really high compared to before. Then we have hitbox sizes, we have the combat power, just some stuff like that. So let's start with Warsect Aqua, rated very highly just due to it being it's a decent combat pal. Like, it's a good water attacking pal, strong exclusive skill that might bug out. It might get stuck and stuff like that, but really it's mainly that it's such a good rescue pal that brings it up here. So you're probably, with the burning pal pods, going to be using either 2/4 Valaris Aqua or 2/4 Neptilius with like Diamond Body and Swift and stuff like that as your rescue pal. So just with this extinguishing pal pods thing, these are pretty much your only options right now. Could do some spicy picks like a Kelpsy or something, but overall you're looking at these two as your rescue pals. Then Lavander, because as I said, I didn't want to bring a pal down just because another pal does it better. So Felbat is pretty much a better Lavander, just much higher attack stat. Lavander, I guess it's not weak to Dragon Pals, and that's what brings it up. But overall, Felbat is just much better, but at the same time, Lavander is just super strong with that 9% lifesteal for the player and the pal. So it's just overall, I think one of the strongest partner skills in the game. With a good enough weapon setup and some Gobfins, you become very much unkillable and can just face tank tower bosses, chopper gunner, stuff like that. So just extremely strong Lavander and Felbat's partner skills. Just breed Meteor Rain onto them and they will keep themselves alive as well. Gale Claw, this is just kind of similar to Herbil, I guess, but just way more fun. You don't have to bring a Gale Claw, I am often not using it, but for stuff like the oil rigs, just generally all kinds of combat, Gale Claw just negates most of the attacks. So you can just fly around on Gale Claw, shoot at the same time, dodge almost everything. Like you would probably gain faster kills with a Gobfin, but Gale Claw is just an easy mode pal. Finsider Ignis, so it's both a booster like Roger or Noct, giving that 20% attack to all fire pals, but it also has the strongest exclusive skill in the game in this Trigger Happy. So it did get nerfed quite a bit, like 30% damage, and they also changed the balance around a little bit, shifting the balance to the damage to the last bullet. So now you're dealing 50% damage on the first 6 and then double damage on the last bullet, while before they were all equal. So if Finsider Ignis gets staggered now mid Trigger Happy, he loses a lot more damage than he did before. But it's still it's good enough to be really powerful. Like you can have 15 of them in a raid, maybe one will get staggered or two. You can have them in the arena, maybe some will get staggered, depends on what you're doing as the player. But it's just like overall, in the party, 5 of these will reach incredible attack stats and just spam this Trigger Happy. You swap after each Trigger Happy for huge amounts of damage. As a raid army, it is very good against like Moonlord Master being small. Struggles a little bit against Xenolord Ultra. Just one Meteor Rain will clear them out. But then it is this burn immune pal, which works very well with the pal pod. So every couple of Meteor Rains, they will need to be mass rescued, but otherwise they are generally fine, especially if you add some player damage to it. So probably the weakest pal with a high rating just because of this Trigger Happy and being a booster pal. Then Gobfin and Gobfin Ignis, they are the booster pals for the player, giving 20% attack each and then 10% with Vanguard. Quite heavy diminishing returns when stacking them, so you are fine with like 3 Gobfins and a Gale Claw, and then your element swap pal or your Felbat. Same thing, like if you're stacking a bunch of Vanguards, you don't need Vanguard on your Felbat or your Vixen and stuff like that. You'll see that like the more damage passives and Gobfins you're adding, the less you will get. Like if you have the 4 Vanguard Gobfins, and then the Vixen with and without Vanguard is like 1% attack difference. So then you're better off just giving Vixen something good. Felbat we covered. Vixen, element swap pal that is just super useful. Good against Lily, good against hard mode Björn. Phase 2, Libro, strong attack stat, makes great use of the root aggregate as well. So you give it some grass attacks, and while pals are rooted, you deal 4.5 times more damage when shooting them headshots. So it just scales very well with player damage, and it's not a bad pal on its own. Noclem, the strongest pal stat-wise, like the exclusive skills aren't great, but as a party pal with the Steel Guardian mode activated, it does get this 300% attack and defense thing. Now this does run into diminishing returns, so you could like do some other stacking with it to not go pure attack, but going pure attack is fun with a lot of big numbers. And in general, just 2 Noclems that you swap between when the partner skill is on cooldown, and then 3 booster pals like Turtacle Terra. If they have like Vampiric, they can solo like hard mode Björn, even during Fade Break. So I think it's pretty much the only pal that you can just sit behind and let it tank everything. If you do withdraw dodge with it, it loses out on the partner skill. So you want it to just be tanking hits and healing with Vampiric, and it can solo, yeah, pretty much all the content for you except for raids. And it doesn't make for a good raid pal. Just keep it as this party pal. And make a couple of different knockdowns, I guess. I have a couple of different ones, like some with Wind Edge, with and without Vampiric if it needs to heal. Against most, like, I think it's only hard mode Bjorn where it needs Vampiric. Against the other bosses, it kills them before they kill it, really. Selene, so Selene is this big potential pal. Maybe it should be A tier just because it's not as good against smaller pals. But against big pals, it's the highest DPS pal in the game, beating out everything else by quite a bit. You can do this thing where it doubles the neutral and dark damage of attacks when mounted, but it only counts when the projectile hits. So you can let it use like Dark Wisp, and then you mount up, and then when the Dark Wisp hits, they deal double damage. Same thing, you let it use the animation for Holy Burst, you mount up, Holy Burst explodes, and it gets double damage, and then you use it yourself. So you get 2 attacks with double damage that way, which is very easy to abuse, and just a huge amount of damage against Blazamut Ryu, Xenogard, Marcus and Phalaris, Victor and Shadowbeak, these big targets, like one-shotting the Jet Dragon Alpha and most other Alpha pals or Legends with it. So just very strong. And then it's not bad against smaller targets. Like you still get double damage, Dark Wisp, Airblade, the Moonlight Beam, Star Mine, stuff like that, doing serious damage as well. So you can do like 5 of these and swap between. You can have 1 main carry with 4 boosters. Just works very well with all these different kinds of builds. Orzhok, probably another, like it's a huge attack stat pal but lacks a little bit of bulk. But that bulk gets made up by being part dragon against most dragon attacks, so it does feel tankier than it is with the small hitbox and the dragon element. Great elements against the raid bosses, like it's got the dragon against Libro, Lightning Streak is also super good against Libro. Then we have like the dragon part against Rio. Doesn't get stunned in phase 2, so it resists the dragon and electric attacks from Rio. I think it has the fastest kill times with a maxed army. Maybe beaten by Neptilius now, but still against Rio, not getting stunned in phase 2 does lead to very quick kills. And it's the same thing for Anubis. So as a raid army, Anubis is great against Rio, not as great against the other bosses like Orzhok is, but makes up for it by being an amazing party pal as well. So Anubis is amazing against So, it's great against Axel and Orzhok, it pulls off the Rock Burst build very well, so it works against all the bosses, that's also why it's in S tier. Great attack stat. So compared to Orzhok, like Orzhok is great in the arena, Anubis does convert your damage, so it's one of those element swap pals as a party pal. Orzhok is also a great party pal with, like, in the arena it's the best one I've found so far for just abusing electric and dragon same element bonus. So great in the arena as well. And then Anubis also quite good in the arena, but it just lacks that dragon element to really resist a lot of those strong attacks. So Orzhok a little bit better as like arena and raid army. Anubis is a little bit better as a party pal. Bastigor, amazing hitbox, amazing stats, great exclusive skill that is a bit better now that Palpots work again. Before it would kind of stack all the Bastigors up and then they might get one shot in a big clump. But now that doesn't matter with Rescue Pals back on the menu. It does suffer from being non-fire or water, so it does suffer with the burning Palpots. But at the level where you got these maxed Bastigors, they die so rarely that your like watering pals should be on top of things, putting out fires. With weaker pals, they tend to spend more time rescuing, and then the fires can get a bit overwhelming. But with Bastigor, like, you won't see them die often enough that it becomes an issue. These, like Neptilius and Flare's Aquas, will be extinguishing the beds fast enough. And then Bastigor just deals a huge amount of damage. Specifically against Xenolord, but it's got a good hitbox as well against Moonlord. Doesn't really shine against Rio or Libro, but at that stage they will shred through it anyway. And a great party pal as well. Like, one of these classic party pals. Not an element swap pal, no, like, shenanigans, just strong attacks and strong skills fighting alongside you. You can also mount up and do some fun stuff like Glacial Impact or any freeze attack into melee rock burst and stuff like that also works. It does feel like ice ground palette, but it's just pure ice. Then we have Jet Dragon. So Jet Dragon, very high attack stat, but a little squishy and a big hitbox. But overall, like, depending on how serious you want to be when fighting, like, there's nothing stopping you from mounting up on a Jet Dragon and flying in circles around the boss until your shields are maxed, dismounting and swapping to like a Vixen or something else, or just having Jet Dragon attack on its own. It's just a little bit of a cheesy thing that people might just reject doing, but it does deserve to be S tier just by that alone. Like, it will make you unkillable if you just mount up and get your shields up. And then it's just a great raid army. Like, with learning Meteor Rain naturally, it can clear out like pretty much the Xenolord and Xenolord Ultra raids. They're extremely good for that. You can catch 5 of them and swap between them as party pass to clear the ads. It's a great combat mount in the endgame, like flying between oil rigs and between the Predator pals and the bases when you're max farming pals. So it's a very good all-round pal. And then it does have this excellent attack stat. Being Dragon is also extremely good, like it will resist Beam Slicers and Meteor Rains itself. It does burn and it has no booster pal, a bit of a downside, as well as the lacking in bulk. But at the same time, it's just having a high attack stat on a Dragon pal seems to be just a great recipe for success in endgame Palworld. And I believe Jet Dragon is the hardest hitting Dragon pal with the stab damage on Beam Slicer and Blast Cannon. So just overall a great pal. Like, you could compare it to Jormuntide Ignis in a lot of cases, where Ignis can get some like breeding skills and like it does have maybe a more interesting partner skill for Ignis, but Jet Dragon, slightly smaller, slightly higher attack stat, tends to win out in most cases, but nowadays it does suffer a bit from burning pal pods, but it just combos so well as just extremely strong party pal and extremely strong raid pal if you do want to make a raid army, or a mixed raid army. Frostallion, just like contrary to Frostallion Noct, it's actually useful. It has a couple of tower bosses where it's really good. It's great against Axel and Orsurk. It gives 40% attack damage compared to like 10% for the fighting alongside you, or 20% for the other mounted element swap pals. It does get Holy Burst and double Blizzard Spike, doubles ice damage when mounted, just like Selene does for neutral and dark. So it just has a lot of stuff going for it. And then on top of that, it's just very fast as well now. Did get a couple of speed boosts and speed buffs. So Frostallion, just like a real case for this current state of the game, with Dark Pals being slightly weaker, Ice Pals being really good just because of how many Dragon Pals and bosses there are. So Frostallion just really shines there. Does suffer a little bit by not being able to get like Lunker and Meteor Rain, but still overall just S tier pal. Probably like against Xenolod and Xenolod Ultra, since you probably don't want to fight on the ground. There's not a lot of options that are good, like fighting from the back of a pal, except for Frostallion, because it's just fast enough to like outspeed the fireballs and satellite bits and get away from the Omega lasers and stuff like that. So just extremely useful fighting pal with very good stats and very overpowered partner skill. Like, I feel like the best partner skill in the game is between Frostallion, Noclem, and Felbat. Maybe including Gobfin if we're gonna go that far. Then Neptilius, the new S tier pal. Very high attack. It's very, very similar to Jet Dragon. It's the Jet Dragon of the sea. So very high attack stat, but pretty big and lacking in bulk. But then the difference is that Neptilius does get access to Lunker. So that ice damage, the water damage. We did get Hydro Slicer. We have Wall Splash, which is a great skill. Thalasonic Laser, the exclusive skill, is extremely strong. Probably the strongest skill in the game against those big targets by the exclusive skills. So Neptilius has really just become this sort of best base pal and extremely strong party pal as well. But best base pal for raids. Like, it will outperform all the other raid armies just with this attack stat. Water bonus on Wall Splash and Hydro Slicer, plus the Lunker bonus on that, and Lunker defense bonus running Lunker, and Legend seems to work out pretty fine. So overall, Neptilius is just extremely strong right now. Being part water as well, working with the pal pods. So really just showcasing extremely well as well, like attack stat being the key factor. It just brings down the raid bosses the absolute fastest out of all the raid armies right now, with this Thalasonic Laser being extremely strong. So hopefully they go back and like buff like Crystal Wing. Beam Comet is very strong. Glacial Impact is strong, but that's from Faybreak. Like, a lot of the old pals, they either don't have exclusive skills or they have very bad exclusive skills. It's mainly like Shadowbeak that has a good one. And then Necromus as well. So let's take the last pal. It is a dark pal in S tier, but that's mainly because Necromus is this one pal fits all, I guess almost all the content as well. If you do go back to this as mentioned in the D tier, like if you just want 5 strong pals that will fight in your party, Necromus is probably the strongest option for just that 5th pal, or that 1st pal rather. Twin Spears, huge amount of DPS, it has a great hitbox, it has great stats, it's very fast as a mount, you can do some melee rock burst stuff with it, decent stamina now and the changes to it as well. So yeah, it's not going to be great against like Rio, and it's not going to be great against Xenolord, but then it just has the stats to sort of survive anyway against a lot of the other pals like Saya and Victor. Even if they do use a little bit of dragon attacks, they're going to be too weak really to do anything to Necromus. So it's just the combination there. Seems to work extremely well with the rock burst build. So against all like combat where you do use your party pals, Necromus will shine with this. Like, it doesn't even have to use Twin Spears. Just throwing like rock burst, airblade, and some other strong skill on it, like Holy Burst, is enough. It just walks into melee range and uses rock burst on its own. So dark pals and electric pals have no minimum range on their basic filler attack, so they will walk into melee range for those melee rock burst skills. So that's kind of the meta right now. You want strong attack stat, you want fire or water for raids, and you want electric or dark for your party pals to do the rock burst build. And then we also have a couple of pals with this like saddle shenanigans from Selene, a couple of boosting shenanigans with Gobfin and Finsider. So up here it's mainly like Bastigor, Necromus, maybe Orsurk and Anubis that are here just by being great pals. And the rest have something like Neptilius, extremely strong exclusive skill, Frostallion, broken partner skill, Jetragon, just super fast and extremely high attack stat, bring it up, broken partner skill, Nochlin, broken partner skill, Vixen, just broken partner skill together with a root aggregate, Felbat and Lavander, just pretty much invincible partner skill once you do have the weapons, and Galeclaw as well there, just invincible partner skills. And then Feller's Aqua and Neptilius, again, just these very strong rescue pals. So that's it for this tier list here. So it's on the website, on the Pal Professor. I've made these new tier lists, so I'm going to be going through them. We got the endgame combat tier list, which is the one we're on. Then also the raid army tier list, the leveling tier list, mount tier list. And then instead of a tier list, it's worker progression. It started as a tier list, but I got sort of derailed on it. And then all the pals, like the stat pages, is in this new Palpedia that I've made. So I spent a lot of time making these sort of Palpedia. There's a card for each pal. And then you go into each individual pal and you will sort of see the stats from the minimum. So Fwak has like 60 HP. That's the lowest you can get, up to 150 is what these bars are representing. Then just some stats that feel important from the game. So pal size is pretty important, like anything S and XS, they're the ones that get like, they fall over when they get hit by a fireball or knocked over. Like Dasimu is a S size mount, so you will get knocked over by more attacks. Walk speed, it's the speed they use when going to the hot springs. Run speed is the speed they use when going between workstations. So just relevant for base work. Same thing with the food and full stomach. You generally want a lot of food. In the early game you want low food because you can't sustain stuff like Penking early. And in the late game you want a high amount of food to get the sanity from food and maintain the work buff. Mail probability, just some pals like Libro have very low chance of mail. And then the base sell price. The partner skills gonna eventually add these 0-star to 5-star gains here. And then the PvE overview, which is sort of like just a little recap by me on what the pals are good for, a little bit on if they're good in the base or not. But yeah, so that's the Palpedia that I've been making. It's also on this Pal Professor site. So that's it for this endgame pal tier list video. Gonna try Hopefully I said the names of the pals this time. I'm gonna try to put some timestamps as well for each pal. But I might have missed something because there's 226 pals in the game now. So if you feel like there's a pal missing from this tier list, as I excluded the ones that weren't even worthy of D tier, if there's anything you feel is missing for endgame combat, just leave a comment or any insights on these pals or opinions. So that's it. Thanks for watching.